And good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me this morning. This is the continuation of my series of developing a deep house track from scratch, where I took some bass lines that I created that were just pure bass lines of just ideas about bass or deep house, and turned that into a track by using some vocal chops and thinking about arrangement. For those that have been here with me through the series, thank you for joining me again. If you're here with me in the stream this morning, thanks for your time. Certainly appreciate that. If you're catching this as a replay of the video afterwards, thanks for the view. Certainly appreciate it. So, a couple of things that have happened off stream since the last sessions that we did. Number one, I brought in I usually bring a MIDI track in at the top, and I use that to just architect out some sections of the track. So you can see that I've got, the idea of the build-up coming in here. I've got a main theme, a secondary theme, return to the main theme with a variation on the melody, then a sort of proper breakdown, return to theme 2, breakdown again, build up back into the main theme, sort of the main drop, if you will. Then I do some dropouts where I take instruments out and then head for the outro at that point. So that lays out about a 7-minute, 15-second track, which is certainly got enough to it to be long enough. And this, ends up being, I think, a relatively decent DJ edit, if you will, there will be enough intro here for some time for a DJ to blend it in, and some outro here for him to be able to blend it out. So what we did last session was take the arrangement view and create the various themes and sections of the track and turn them into scenes in arrangement view, which I then played, in session view. I said that backwards in one of my prior streams too. So in session view here, I created the main themes, and you can see that, the items are coming in and building up and dropping out through the various sections, and I played this arrangement into the arrangement view, and I did that with these sections from the session view to get the core of the track built up. Then I brought in the header here at the top and said, okay, how do I really want this to lay out? And I went about the business of sort of laying out an arrangement so that the tracks all the various tracks all lay out and build a cohesive theme. Now it starts with a intro where more or less I'm kind of introducing the soundscape to the listener, so they just kind of get a sense of what some of the sounds are gonna feel like throughout the track. You got the ARP and you got a long, slow, low bass. Introduced the little piano chop. And I did some work with automation through here, so that some of these pieces and parts, have a little bit of movement to them and generate a little bit of excitement. Realize that volume automation's a little high there. And I did some pretty cool, ideas here where, for example, I took the filter on the pluck and I put it in a sine wave pattern that's running opposite to the filter sine wave pattern that's running on the pad, so that they kind of trade off the spotlight a little bit in the background. I probably want to take that and duplicate that over here. So you can hear how the ARP kind of stands out now, and the filter's in the back. And they're going to do that one more trade as I bring in other drum instrumentation. I also did something a little bit different with this kick drum. Ordinarily, when you're introducing the kick, you'll hear a lot of folks will filter the bottom end of the kick out and just have the click sitting on the track. That's certainly something I've done a lot. In this one, I wanted it to be a little darker and more mysterious in the beginning. So rather than filtering it that way, I filtered it the other way. And I brought the low end of the kick in first, and then I bring in the click afterwards. Now I think I actually turned that off. That's odd. Oh yeah, sorry, I was looking in the wrong place. The filter off. It turns the filter off there at the end. Now what I probably should also do is think about that at the end as well. I need to go find filter on. Let's take a listen there. Right, so I'm going to filter that kick out. So the top end of the kick is going to drop off similar to what I did in the beginning. Now again, ordinarily, you know, you have the kicks come in and out. A lot of people will just leave the click, which is ordinarily what I do in a lot of my tracks too. I just like the idea of this one having slightly darker feel to it. So rather than doing it that way, I did it the other way and just brought in the low end. But what you got is a build up into the main theme. And, you know, you got some decent automation still going on down here in the rhythm section so that they're still playing off of each other. And as I lay this out, you can imagine the vocal chops will be sitting down here, at least introducing the idea of the vocal melody. So you'll have, you know, don't give up, kind of probably repeating down here, or I don't know, I haven't really given much thought yet to what I'm going to do with the Vox, but I may put pieces and parts out wide and maybe put some elements that are doing a call and response, but we'll get through that. Now, one of the areas that I did focus on off stream here are some of these transitions. So I've got this, you know, you got the main theme here. Coming into a secondary theme. And so I worked on what this transition might sound like here. It's not fully complete yet, but getting there. And this clap is kind of quiet. I may do some. I may bring in another drum sample, maybe some tom fill or something, maybe snare roll or something along with, because I didn't really want a big heavy clap, you know, offbeat in this track. I wanted it to be a little bit groovier and kind of sit. So this clap's kind of quiet and very thin. You know, I gave it a little bit more reverb and some space for that little turnaround there, but but you know, it's all about just trying to create some movement and variation as you get in the transition, yet also have it so that it sort of leads into the next section. So also went through here and created some variations on the percussion so that you've got sections of the percussion that change up a little bit, thinking more, you know, I like to think about as if I were actually playing that part. Would I sit there doing the same thing over and over and over again, which is, you know, the cut and paste approach? And the answer is no, right? If I was actually playing, I'd put little fills in. I would change up what I was doing on the particular instrument that I was playing. And so, you know, you've got this main groove sitting on this percussion, which I like sitting on top of the track, but I've created some small variations of that, you know, by chopping it up and reordering it. So, you know, it's as if the guy's leaning in and just playing a slightly different variant of it. And I've got a few other sections where I did that with some turnarounds. And then I also took the same sample and created some cutout sections of it so that you've got a simpler beat, as if the guy's, you know, sitting there watching the other players and just kind of bringing in the main theme before adding all the various fills. So you can hear da, 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 which is really the main theme of that. And I created a second section that brings in just the back half. And then a little turnaround. And then he's into his full beat, right? So I use that as some of the elements for the transitions and for little arrangement fills here and there. So I have a second transition going on here into the breakdown. And here I used, I think, the piano. Yeah, you can hear that little double hit of the piano note, which I'll probably come in and do some volume automation on so it rises a little bit more to the forefront. I've also changed instrumentation in the drums here and brought in the ride and let it sit on top. Now I probably will do some more filter work here so that this gets, you know what, I'll probably do some of that right now. I like the idea of these rising a little bit more so that you get some variation in that, but also I want it to rise a little bit more so it stands out as we come into this. And probably we'll do some sort of snare roll or something. Maybe take these hats and put them on a repeating 16th as I come in here. And a little trick I also did here is the crash cymbal. I actually hit it twice on the 16th, as if, you know, as if the player just, you know, hit that cymbal twice coming in with the little little leading tone to it. I did several where I've got a reverse cymbal leading into it. That one in particular I used almost like a white noise fill, but here. This is almost like he's hitting it, like the cymbal player's hitting it with the mallets and then hits it with the stick. Or almost like he's almost like playing the ride with a I've forgotten what it's called when the drummer's got the not the stick but rather the little fan, the little steel fan that he rubs on the cymbals to make them kind of just ring out. Can't believe I can't remember what that's called, but anyway. So that's the second main theme, and of course I've laid this out now with this arrangement in just set up basically so that I can now come through and create the vocal chop melodic elements. So for example, this is going to be the main drop of the track, if you will, where you're going to be highlighting the vocals sitting on top. So where we're headed with this is somewhere where this comes in like, maybe we'll do it like this. And then maybe a second time around. Or something along those lines, right? You know, and you can imagine sort of call and response and setting one maybe left, maybe right, and taking some elements, putting them out wide, something else down the center channel. But I'm going to use those chops to then create a vocal melodic element here that will then play off of the instrumentation melody. And in fact, by the time we get to this part of the track, where it's probably wide open, I'll probably have the vocals and the other melody playing at the same time. And then I've got an outro where I effectively take instrumentation out slowly over some time so that, you know, we're a DJ playing, he could start to think about what his next track is that's mixing in. And I don't know that I put too much effort yet in what's going on here, but yeah, I think that I actually will probably do something like this. In fact, I probably will come through here. Now that I've got that on a slant, let's do this. Let's do this. Boom. No, that is not what I wanted. Hang on. That is what I wanted. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So where it's kind of broadly going up, but and that way the ARP's got a little bit more interest to it as we head into a section where the ARP is going to be a little bit more prevalent. Just changing that so that I've got a little bit more of a reverb tail there and it doesn't sound so stark when it cuts off. Yeah, there we go. Right there at the end. All right, so that's where we're basically heading with the track. You know, I've got to do a little bit of work here on some of these transitions, make them a little bit more smooth, maybe bring some other instruments in and around the transitions. Again, thinking like players who would be sitting on this. You know, your bass player wouldn't just play the same 4 beats or the same 4 bars exactly as he was changing to a separate theme, for example. You know, we've got a theme change over here. And I would imagine that if I were playing that bass line, I would, I'm sure, change this last bar a little bit just to kind of lead into that second theme. And so I'll spend some time focused on these changeovers here in section and just working on some of those transitions. Also think about maybe some sound effects and bringing in some you know, maybe even some more fills, like, you know, I've got the reverse cymbal here just leading up into this crash. I may have some other build-up sounds, may use the pads in and out, and think about things like, for example, right here, I've got a piano section coming in. So this is that little dot dot is actually standing out in this whole transition here. And so I probably will go in and do some volume automation, maybe even some filter automation right there on the piano, so that little dot dot, I mean, if that piano player was playing that, he probably would lean on that just a little bit, because that's a little moment for him to shine in the track, because that's kind of his little spot there. And I'm sure he would lean on those notes just a little bit, just to get a little more punch. And so I'll think about what that would be like, and maybe add some automation around you know, the tone or whatever, and we'll figure that out. But the idea is that next I'm going to work on these transitions. I'm going to work on probably bringing in some sort of a tom fill, maybe even some short snare rolls here and there, maybe a few other changes in the way the cymbals or hats are being played. You know, I've got a couple of different variations of what's going on with the hats, including some 16ths change up and a couple change ups in the small little accent instruments in and around the hats. I'll probably focus on those coming in the transitions, and then work on that vocal melody and adding that on top so that we've got something cohesive. Probably think about adding some introduction to the vocals up here so people get a sense of the timbre of the singer's voice and sort of what those lines are going to be like. Do some effects where we wash them out wide, put them out in the wings, out in the stereo field, and then bring them towards center when the actual vox chops are going to come in for real. Think about playing in these sections where the melody isn't at first. Maybe introduce some counterplay between the melody and the singer here. I can imagine bopping back and forth between that melody and the vocal melody here, then have vocal melody really dominate this section, and then maybe trade off and then have both kind of cooking here at the back end of the drop. So that's where we're headed with it. If you're here with me this morning, thank you very much for coming along. I certainly appreciate that. If you are catching this afterwards, thanks for the view. Thanks for being here. I hope that you found this interesting or found some interesting ideas in watching along. And certainly hope that you have a great day. Let's go and add